If we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones. And we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of six strong power stations.
Yes. It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to make them understand that, look, going forward, it's no longer going to be business as usual. Whatever that may be happening in the past, we want to now be able to put a system in place that will checkmate, correct the ills of the past, give us a new pedestal from which to stand and operate going forward.
Officially, what we get in the country, 79% is from crude, foreign exchange, 11% is from oil, from gas, natural gas. Between the two of them is 90%.
If we are getting whatever it is we are getting from oil revenue today, you look at the oil revenue is more than enough to take Nigeria to her next level. But at the end of the day, the processes, the leakages, and so many things that have become like an epidemic on our economy will not allow whatever we are gaining or getting from this deposit or these blessings from God to give us what we are looking for.
The coming of Brazil now this time is important. Then first they have to organize a workshop for these herders, those who rear cows. This is why it's good for you to have your cows in a particular place, and these are things you do to feed them well, and they will equally have good meat for consumption.
The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and in the other way around, the beginning of a thing also can predict what the afternoon or the evening of that same thing would look like. With the trend that has not been curbed and nothing has been discussed about it, for instance, when you see a project like fuel subsidy removal and you don't have a substitution or alternative like stomach infrastructure or welfare package for the same people that you are coming up to lead, and even though I didn't hear her directly, but it was in news that the president's wife made a speech that Nigeria should not be afraid that they are not coming to loot Nigeria because they are already having money. They are billionaires or trillionaires. So people were depending on that speech. Okay, if you come up, at least if you are a rich man and you come to manage a team, you make your influence affect the people so that they will now have hope. So right now, apart from God, sir, the trend that we are seeing in our economic ecosystem does not promise any better show for anybody.
If we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones. And we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of six strong power stations.
Yes. It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to make them understand that, look, going forward, it's no longer going to be business as usual. Whatever that may be happening in the past, we want to now be able to put a system in place that will checkmate, correct the ills of the past, give us a new pedestal from which to stand and operate going forward.
Officially, what we get in the country, 79% is from crude, foreign exchange, 11% is from oil, from gas, natural gas. Between the two of them is 90%.
If we are getting whatever it is we are getting from oil revenue today, you look at the oil revenue is more than enough to take Nigeria to her next level. But at the end of the day, the processes, the leakages, and so many things that have become like an epidemic on our economy will not allow whatever we are gaining or getting from this deposit or these blessings from God to give us what we are looking for.
the coming of Brazil now this time is important, then first they have to organize a workshop for these herders, those who rear cows. This is why it's good for you to have your cows in a particular place, and these are things you do to feed them well, and they will equally have good meat for consumption.
The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and in the other way around, the beginning of a thing also can predict what the afternoon or the evening of that same thing would look like. With the trend that has not been curbed and nothing has been discussed about it, for instance, when you see a project like fuel subsidy removal and you don't have a substitution or alternative like stomach infrastructure or welfare package for the same people that you are coming.
Hello, good to have you on the program. Of course, it still remains the economy today on KAFTAN television. Thank you for being there. Again, I would also want to say apologies for certain delays that are purely technical matters. We're here to start and we'll continue. I have a guest on the program today. I'm Okechukwu, by the way, and I have a guest on the program. My guest this day happens to be someone that is, what I would say, far away from me right now, but who has always been a great guest on the program. I'm talking about Professor Ken Ife. Professor Ken Ife is reaching us from London, and it's a pleasure to say that it's good to have you on the program today. Professor Ken, of course, is a development economist and the macroeconomic policy analyst and lead consultant ECOWAS. ECOWAS Commission, Industry and Private Sector Development and Network. The thing about what we're doing today is that we really want to talk about certain things that are important, especially that has to do with finances and money, which I know is just Professor Ken that will help us best with it. And so that's why we have labored to make sure that he is here on the program today. Prof, thank you so much for taking pains to be with us on this program, even from that far away.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right, sir. We have a topic for today, and our topic is February 26th, Naira rebasing. It just happened, and we're looking at it and seeing the things involved, and we say, okay, let's talk about it. Let's ask Professor Ken to help us understand it better. The way the MPC meeting that just was held concluded, moving us the way they have moved. Let's hear it from you, sir.
Yeah, the long-awaited shift in the monetary policy rate has arrived. I mean, the reason why it's been expected is because some of the key
pillars that underpinned the rise in the NPR rates, we are beginning to cool. One of it is inflation. We're now seeing inflation trending down almost 11 months now. And even though it's around, it's going to head down. And we are very optimistic that it might come near single digit in the next 12 to 18 months. So that is positive. Then we also have money supply, which they are right on top of right now. And they've invoked all kinds of instruments to ensure that they keep a cap on money supply. They're also looking at other good things like steady flow of forex and forex stability. The rates are steady, they're stable. People are coming in, portfolio investors are coming in to show off our dollar availability. So that and other macroeconomic conditions are quite positive. Our balance of trade is positive, balance of payment is positive. There is growth in the economy, but the biggest challenge to that growth is that it's not actually helping employment and it's not helping poverty reduction. So it now exposes the biggest challenge, which is our import-dependent economy. So we need to invest more on value addition, on industrialization, on import substitution, and export orientation. So we need to focus on that so that the productive sector and the real sector will give us the real jobs and sustainable growth that reduces poverty and is more inclusive. So that is actually where we are right now. So for them to now decide to help by beginning to bring down the monetary policy rate to 26.5%, that also would have a knock-on effect on the banks. Commercial banks' loan will also have to start coming down in consequence, because that is a benchmark rate. So once it comes down, it triggers the response from the commercial banks. They will all begin to also trend down. And then hopefully we're going to see a pickup in the lending profiles. They also reduce the cash reserve ratio from 50% to, I think, 45%. Again, remember, it used to be 30%. So that again increases the availability of cash to the banking sector to lend. But we do want more. And there are other things that are going to make this thing accelerate. For example, the action taken by the president a few days ago to decapitate NNPC and clamp their burning of our dollars. Because what happens is that the revenue we get from crude, NNPC takes 30% of it, and then 30% of it to frontier basins, and we don't have control. NNPC seems to be with the finger on the, and that means only 40% of revenue actually comes to federal and state government and local government to share. So the president clamped down on that, and quite rightly so. But this abuse has gone on for too long. Let's have the money come in so that in the new plan process, now we are bringing in the subnationals to lead, then there's going to be a lot more to deliver the people. Regional development agencies are heading out there to collaborate with regions, and then government is gradually getting out of the exclusive list, like things like power, and they should do dam as well. Get dam out, power is out, and then also get rail and some critical infrastructure so that the regions can plan on their own infrastructure connectivity, and then enable the private sector to work with the subnationals and deliver something. We're expecting too much from federal government, and that's why federal government activity on capital spend is so deplorable. So let's push it. State governments are doing 30, 40, even up to 70% on capital expenditure. So let's push the resources there so that they can deliver. And one practical example is power. I suggest if every state can have free trade zone or special economic zone, every state, then federal and state government can come together and put 5 megawatts in each of those. Now, 5 megawatt times 37 states plus an FCT is going to give you, can you imagine how much power you're going to get? over how many thousand, about 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts going straight into the states in export processing zones. Now, people can come in there to manufacture. This whole idea of waiting for government, federal government to bring something here, it's not going to work. They have the things that they can do. The infrastructure of this nature that is so pivotal for production and processing capacity, forget federal government. Let's push that action down to subnationals and we can get some traction.
Okay. Because I know that Bauchi State, during their conference that they had last year, they were talking about having a free trade zone there in Bauchi. And then Anambra State, the governor had mentioned that he's also beginning to construct. That was what he mentioned last year. I hope it will still be on course, that there will be a free trade zone in Oboji area in Anambra. And Abia State, they've also started to talk about something like that. And anyway, Abia State's situation is entirely different because why I'm saying so is that the entire state will soon become such a place because they have made sure that there is effective power supply in the 9 local governments that are under their power project that they started, Abia Power. And I gather that the government is making effort, the governor is making effort to extend it to the other local governments in the state so that the entire state will be a zone where there will be power supply on a constant note and the people will be able to make use of the power to do production, even as Aba is turning into something that is like, they were saying it, that would be the Japan of Africa, but then he's making it a reality now, that all the manufacturing and all those things will be happening in Aba because there will be power supply, effective power supply to the people. I guess that's what you mean, sir, talking about having zones and regions working. But I think I want to ask, wouldn't it be better if it were to be that Abia, Anambra, Imo, Enugu, and Ebonyi were to come together? Because there was this one in Enugu, the Enugu Power something from Oji River. I don't know how serious that one is now, but if all of these will come together, wouldn't it make it better for the region to have effective production, just as you have advised?
No, well, this is the way the government is thinking. Because when you notice that as soon as President came in, he created the regional development commissions or something. So that is a very big signal. And don't forget that in 1970, when the war ended, we were promised rehabilitation, reconstruction, all of that. Nothing came true. Then NDDC started and they worked well for some time. And then the Northeast Development Agency started and they focused on dealing with the crisis in the Northeast. So now all other regions have got their own regional development commissions. And now that's an opportunity for them to now come together and start doing a regional plan. South has their own regional plan, 30-year development plan, and others are doing their own thing. So that's the way to go. And so that means that more of the federal infrastructure should just devolve to the states, to the regions, so that they can do their thing and they can collaborate. For example, the Southeast are looking at a concentric rail line linking all the 5 states capitals. Why? That's good. They have a radial one that comes from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. It will pass through 3 of the states. But then when you now get to Owerri, and then when you get to Aba, and then you turn left, and the rail goes through Owerri, connects Onitsha, goes through Oka, comes to Enugu, connects Bonny, and back to Omahia. So it connects, it goes all the state. Then the state governors do that. They can do that. They can borrow money now because much over 40%, their liquidity is very, very high because much of the debts of all have gone down by more than 40%. So they can come aggregate together and draw down a big loan to deliver the infrastructure. And then, of course, the federal government will have to meet them at their point of need by devolving some of the, not only the power, but also the resources, so that they can accelerate very, very quickly and focus on the international infrastructure that is critical. You have 300 dams in Nigeria. I don't know what the federal government. If all those 12 regional, the 12 basins, we have 12 basins in the country. What the river basin, they can get those. They can get so they can do the irrigation. And then the rail is the way to move goods through long distances, very heavy goods, so you can leave the roads alone. And because the road maintenance is such a challenge, and the people that normally will spend their day moving from Sokoto to Lagos now takes 3 days, and with all the bumps and all the destruction, let the state governments work together in the framework of a regional government, and then we can have the second component of their new plan is ward-based bottom-up development. Again, that will bring in community-based budgeting and participatory budgeting. So both of them work well with a regional approach to economic development. And then the federal government will just focus on what they have now done, which is ensuring macroeconomic stability. They've delivered on that. But there are other little areas that they need to tidy up, like customs, manning our seaports, ports. If states want to build more airports, good luck to them. If they want to put more cargo fleet, excellent. But they can get that. Then the police, devolution of the police force, let them do their own at regional level. Amotekun is successful, let others imitate, so that the states are more answerable. The governors are more answerable to security, rather than everybody turning around government. It hasn't got the capacity. The police force is very corrupt, and it's just excruciating pain for our people. Let the region deal with this. Let them deal. You can still have your federal police there. In America, don't you have 4 layers of enforcement in America? So what is the big deal? What is the big deal? So National Guard, FBI, the local police, the sheriff, so they all have different levels. They have state police. So let's get on. Some of those things that seem to be problem have already melted away. So the country is now ready to move, especially the decapitation of NNPC. That's the best news that we've had. So that the resources are going to enter into the RAMFAC equation, sharing equation. And then people will grow the economies.
I would be glad if you would like to throw more light on that matter as it affects the populace.
Which matter? I didn't hear that bit.
The decapitation of the NNPC.
Oh, okay. Look, all the problem we've had in this country they take their origin from NNPC. And I have to be very clear. In fact, there's no point going too far away. Let's just look at 2021 when we signed the PIA Act. PIA took over 20 years of going forward and backwards before eventually it was signed. And before you reach that compromise, they're going to put a lot of lacunas here and there. And one of those is that frontier basin, they said the revenue profit that we'll get, they share the thing. Only 40% comes to federal government federation account for it to be shared by the of government. And then NPC traps 30%. 30% goes to frontier basin. And that frontier basin, they're not using procurement laws. They're not being oversighted by the assembly. It's not something that enters into the budget. Nobody knows what they're doing. The money is huge. I know during the time of Buhari, they had to go into budget. But you shouldn't be begging for your own money. That is your money. Somebody else is spending your money without authority. So, now put that aside, which is what the president has corrected right now. And this man is right. If anybody wants to go to Supreme Court, go there. Let's go and hear. And by the time you go and come back, the law will be amended. Secondly, if you remember in 2021, NNPCs, when we saw corruption in the import of fuel and subsidy, they took control of all the export of crude and then all the import of PMS. Now, normally from 2014, $3 billion every month goes to central bank. Proceeds from crude, they go to central bank from where CBN also disburses, and then NNPC still comes there to take some money. But they blocked that. Instead, they now had a crude swap with foreign refiners. Not even refiners. There are blending people that blend products. So what they do is that they move all the crude out, and you know there's so many products from crude, they only bring back PMS, and then upon fact that you are bringing back only PMS, you still turn around to government and tell them you are owing me. Go and borrow 500 billion naira every month as subsidy. So you see, all your income has gone away without scrutiny. What can come back? Only one out of all the things that could have come back, and then you're asking government to borrow. Where would the government get the money? So they have to start printing Naira. They had COVID, they had to print Naira. They're fighting battle, they have to print Naira because NNPC decapitated the central bank. So the guys did, so that's why you had 27 billion in ways and means. Now, fast forward. While all this nonsense are going on, they made sure that these refineries are dead. Every year they take $1 billion, they are going to do maintenance. And in the dying minute of Buhari's departure, they brought 3 letters to the man to sign that they want to borrow $3.5 billion. He said, we don't have the money. Where are you going to? They said, don't worry. Buhari signed, and then the gentleman left. They now went and used that thing to get money from Afrexim. They borrowed 3.5 billion, and then they securitized future crude proceeds. I think for about 5 years or something. So they put, and then that 3.5 billion, they said they're going to do it on refinery. They won't burn refinery. They burnt at least 3 billion of that money for refinery that never worked. They were only producing this thing, naphtha. So if you can't get them working, why are you burning the money? And they eventually shut it down. So why are you getting the level of waste? It's because of the unmitigated access that they have to national resources, our government, federation resources. So that's why it is now, Dangote now came in, invested 20 billion and started refining crude and then producing fuel. Now producing more than what we need. We need 50 million barrels a day. They are now doing 65 million barrels a day. But this is nothing. They don't want them. They're fighting tooth and nail to stop that business so that they can continue to stay in their comfort zone of zero production of this thing and then importing substandard fuel. And part of the money they are using to import this is all this too much money that they are taking away that would have been going to federation account. So the decapitation of NNPC is very good news for our country. They won't have all that dollar that they will need to be recklessly importing substandard fuel, undermining all the production. Look at what Dangote has brought. He had de-risked the sector. He has de-risked the transportation, put 1.7 trillion to bring CNG trucks and all of that to ensure there's smooth distribution without even getting a penny profit in distribution level. He just wants to do it to de-risk the sector. Now look at the result. 50 billion is going to new refinery in Ondo that will do 500,000 barrels. Bua is doing 200,000 barrels in Akwa Ibom. Another guy is coming in Lagos with another refinery. More other refineries are coming up. Nigeria will now become a refining hub for the whole of Africa. Somebody has taken that challenge to de-risk that sector. But what you have, government corrupt institution that is burning your dollars and then trying to fight everybody with unions that are singing and dancing with them. They want to destroy the industry because you are touching their soul. And that cannot stand. This country has to move forward. The country has to move forward. And that's how you have to have political courage to fight where fight is necessary. And this is where it is. So these chicken are all coming back to roost. And then you're going to see more light in the end of the tunnel.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. Though I didn't quite get everything because of my people here. But all the same, one thing important is that the fact that what we are getting is that the best will come into our country and our economy will be made better. You see, this shows that if this had been done long ago, maybe we have gone through some of the problems this nation went through in the past 10 years, let's say 10 years. Because if we had had things done the right way all the while, the economy would have stood much longer, much far better than it is today if it had continued all that from the past till now. Now that we are sure that maybe, let's say, we're sure that these, at least with the way that we have these things going on now, in addition to it, yes, this comes to my mind, we also have some of these, like BUA and some other companies trying to come up with CNG production. I hope that one would also help, because these are other refineries. There are some in Kogi State, I think two in Kogi State, and they are working on that, trying to get all of these and add it to what we are already having with what Dangote is doing. Looking at it, where do you think Nigeria would be if we were to follow things the right way from now on? Looking at inflation as it affects us, tell us what's the hope like?
Digit. Inflation is trending to single digit, and I'm sure we have good chances of it making it. Number two, the projection of $1 trillion economy by 2030, as far as concerned, is realistic, things that are going on. If only they can momentum. Most people do not believe it is going to happen, but I believe it will happen, because this critical step that we'll need is, look, if you look at GDP, nominal with the exchange rate in dollar. Today, about $300 billion. If you were to divide that nominal GDP with the 500 Naira to $1, which is what it was in 2023, immediately your GDP will become 800 and something billion. So you can see that you are just close to the trillion. But that is arithmetic. That is just using financial figure. But what you need to have is an increase in productive capacity, an increase in productivity of your raw material to finished products. Because if you achieve 30% value addition, your revenue will go on grow 300%. If you are from raw material, it will grow by at least 300%. Supporting raw material, you add value to it, 30% value, your revenue will triple. So this is the area that, because then you can have jobs that go with it, you can have improvement in living conditions that go with it, and then you will have more investment in infrastructure involving the subnationals, involving the local governments. You now have, if you have a free trade zone or a special economic zone in each of the states, every goes away to look for friends from Taiwan, from Hong Kong, from Japan, from China, to come and manufacture and convert raw material to finished product in their states. Not to go to Lagos and do what? Everybody should have one in their state. It's no big deal. And then federal and state to have power in those same hubs, production hubs. Let them have something there, so that everybody will aspire to go. And in fact, there are certain things that don't need you to move them around. For example, cassava, we're the biggest in the world, 20 to 25%. You move it, is only 70% water. Why do you want to transport it? Because you get rotten. If you're going to produce cassava, high quality cassava flour, you must do it within 24 hours. 24 hours is not enough for you to harvest cassava, put it on the truck, and move it to a factory site. No, it's gone. You won't be able to produce that product. So you can say that. And then if you have to ferment it, you have 3 days to ferment it and make garri and all of that. So you can't be transporting it. And it's only by ethanol that you can probably leave it for a little while you agree. But, so the issue has to be local production,
Yes,
and targeting export, so that we can stop this nonsense of being an import-dependent economy. We can create our wealth and retain the wealth, and stop sending raw material and exporting jobs and importing poverty. We're going to stop that. So in that way, you can get your big $1 trillion economy, you will exceed it. And you carry more jobs with you to achieve that. And you include more communities, more empowerment, more development that you can see, not the ones you lament about. It will be, so now have 37 captains producing. In other words, you have 37 locations in the country, each correspond to one state where you have production centers and there is power, at least 5 megawatt power. You know, you can't get foreign investors to come here to process anything. They can't come. The president is still sitting to accent the 30% mandatory value addition on raw material. He hasn't accented to the bill. He's been waiting for almost 8 months. Both houses of assembly, Senate and House of Rep, they've approved and be sitting there. And my question is why? Even though 30% is what we do in ECOWAS under our rule of origin, but in the African continental Africa has increased to 40%. Ghana has increased to 50%. Ghana doesn't want to export any gold away unless it reaches 50%. So these guys are upping their game. So, but we are still celebrating that we are getting more export. What export? We are getting export, yeah, more revenue. But what is it? Based on your raw materials. You can't be exporting raw material. Where are you going to export it to Africa? Raw material from here and take it to Tanzania to process for you. Is that what you are going to do? No, we have to be real.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's a good thing we have had a lot from you concerning this, and honestly, all I see is that there is hope for us as far as the right thing is done the way it should be done. And with that, there will be hope for us to get higher and get better, because definitely as it happens, a lot more can come even onto, that we say, what we have, what we put on the table of the common man will be made better, because with all this industrialization and with export too, definitely better things will be what will happen to our Naira, and as a result, it will affect the people. Well, we'll be almost rounding off right now, and so I want to know what are the things you could say to, what are your parting words before we conclude on this particular edition of the program today?
Okay, we just launched the industrial policy, which we didn't have for more than 20 years. We didn't have it. We're still waiting for the trade policy. The industrial policy is good, but don't forget it is as good as the excellent plans that are produced in Nigeria. And the devil is in the detail. The devil is in the implementation of this. So while I still notice that some things are missing in those, like bioeconomy is not there. Two, you can't be doing industrial policy without having a medium-term policy, a development plan that you will now be saying, oh, we're going to capture this, we're going to do this, we're going to do, so that it will run in sync with your development plan and even your long-term plan. But it doesn't matter. It's still a starting point. So we've got that coming through. We'll have the brilliant meeting of the National Executive Councils, pulling the governors together and saying, governors, come and lead in this new process, this new dispensation. That is good news. We have all the macroeconomic indicators positive and convergent. That's good news. And that is the area that federal should focus on. Focus on sorting out our fiscal policy, making sure that the fiscal and monetary policy are talking to each other and have a good handshake, and then make sure that industrial policy, investment policy, and trade policy are all focusing on export-led growth strategy. That is the strategy. The strategy has to be export-led growth strategy. In terms of delivery, it should be delivered mainly by subnationals working with federal government. And then in terms of the communities come up. So it's bottom up and top down. That's how you're going to get a development in the country. Top down means federal working with states. Then bottom up means local government and wards getting involved in participatory budgeting. And so in that way, you have meaningful that will be sustainable, that will also be inclusive, and the rest will be good news. You can see a light in the end of the tunnel.
Well, that has been, I have been sharing the moments with Professor Ken Ife. Professor Ken Ife is, of course, the president of the Institute of Professional Economists and Policy Management, the lead consultant at the Central Bank of Nigeria, chief economic strategist, ECOWAS Commission, and senior policy advisor, the president, Africa Business Roundtable and NEPAD Business Group. Thank you so much for finding time to help us, even to guide us and to show us the things that we needed to understand about all this thing that has happened. We are grateful that even from that distance you found time for us. Thank you, sir, for being part of what we have done, Prof.
Thank you very much. Sir. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Oblige us next time because we will still look for you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, that's been us sharing with Professor Ken Ife on the program, and I believe you enjoyed even all the things he made us to understand, and the great hope we have all received from his talk to us today on the program. Well, we're still on the program that is the economy today on KAFTAN television, and of course it's February 26th, Naira Rebasing. That's the major thing we discussed today with Professor Ken. There are other things we still need to talk about with him, like the tax and all that. But then, this is for today. We'll get the other ones to happen again, even by next week or so, when we'll be able to get him around again so as to share with us on the program. Well, right away, we will take this brief break and we move over to, but not even a break. Let's just have what we have from the business news. Then we'll return to look at some of the economic stories here and conclude for the day.
The federal government has outlined a rigorous roadmap to transition Nigeria into a $1 trillion economy, asserting that the target is specific, measurable decision rather than a mere political slogan. Minister of State for Finance Doris Uzoka Anite made the disclosure in Abuja at the 2026 Finance Correspondents Association of Nigeria (FICAN) annual general meeting, where she revealed that achieving this milestone will require the nation to maintain a sustained GDP growth rate of between 10% and 12% annually over the next decade. It was themed actualizing President Bola Tinubu's $1 trillion economy agenda reforms as a foundation to Nigeria's economic transformation. The minister's keynote address was presented by Uloma Amadi, Assistant Director Media and Public Relations at the ministry, noted that while the current GDP stands at approximately $275 billion, the administration is committed to the ambitious targets that move nations. And now the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, says it has an approved work plan comprising 15 strategic projects across sectors with projected revenue of 189.1 billion naira for 2026, as it deliberately makes efforts to contribute meaningfully to fiscal consolidation, reduce reliance on debt financing, and support capital expenditure priorities of government. This position was made known by the Director General of PBE, Ayodeji A. Gbeleyi, in Abuja at the annual general meeting of the Finance Correspondents Association of Nigeria (FICAN). Represented by the Director Industries and Services BPE, Tobuindi Oduniyi, Gbeleyi said the 2026 portfolio includes the proposed commercialization of the 2 from the 10 National Integrated Power Plants (NIPs), public listing of shares of a DISCO on the Nigerian Exchange Limited (NGX), concession of Oyen Dam, and asset optimization initiatives in the oil and gas sector. Now moving to the housing sector. The federal government of Nigeria has commended the European Union-funded Sustainable Integrated Development Program for internally displaced persons in Nigeria, praising it for delivering durable housing solutions, strengthening community integration, and improving living conditions for displaced persons and host communities. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Angiwar, made this commendation in a meeting with a delegation from the Uninhabited at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja. While acknowledging the UN Habitat's ongoing support through seed paying in Adamawa, Kano, and Borno State, he emphasized the alignment with the ministry's priority of rebuilding livelihoods and strengthening social cohesion in post-conflict areas. Angiwa also recognized the The program supports in reviewing the National Urban Development Policy alongside its contribution to planning reform and the offer of a consultant for the National Land for Growth Program, urban renewal initiatives and slum upgrading programs.
The project is said to be executed in strict adherence to the provisions of the Public Procurement Act 2007, following a transparent and competitive tendering process. Speaking at the Epoch event, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Barrister Festus Keyamo, stated that the event underscores the current administration's commitment to modernizing the critical infrastructure that underpins the safety, efficiency and growth of the Nigerian aviation sector.
So this event is more than just a symbolic turning of the soil. It is a declaration of intent. It's a tangible demonstration of our unwavering commitment to modernizing the critical infrastructure that underpins the safety, efficiency, and growth of Nigerian aviation.
Speaking earlier, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, Engineer Farouk Ahmed Umar, said the project represents a fundamental shift on the nation's airspace management.
We align with the national vision to position Nigeria as a leading regional aviation hub. And NAMA is committed to providing the seamless, efficient airspace management that such a hub requires. We'll continue to be a strong regional partner, engaging with ICAO, Council, and neighboring flight information regions to harmonize and improve air navigation across Africa.
The project is a strategic response to the need to consolidate NAMA's administrative and operational functions into a modern, purpose-built facility. Ikaite Ibot, KAFTAN TV.
Stakeholders at the 2026 Africa Languages Week in Accra have emphasized that African languages must be repositioned not only as cultural assets but as economic and digital tools capable of accelerating development across the continent. Speaking at the gathering hosted by the University of Ghana, the Managing Director of CU Africa, Prince Cletus Iluabanafor, warned that Africa risks missing major growth opportunities if indigenous languages remain sidelined in governance, education, and business systems. He noted that millions of Africans remain excluded from markets and public services due to language barriers, arguing that integrating local languages into communication strategies could unlock new consumer bases and strengthen participation in democratic processes. Experts presented proposals on artificial intelligence tools, animation-based learning for children, and the development of standardized vocabularies for sectors such as health, water management, and public administration.
Speaking at the occasion, the chairman and CEO Kubwa Central Markets, Honorable Vincent Udobi, who lamented over the current economic hardship faced by Nigerians, stated that there is a dire need for governments at all levels to collaborate with well-meaning Nigerians, especially entrepreneurs, in creating jobs for the teeming unemployed Nigerians so as to curb insecurity. Honorable Vincent further called on media to project the positive image of the country to further strengthen national unity.
I'm begging Nigerian government to create job opportunities. Some of these youths that are doing bad things is because of maybe evil, you see, like evil communication, corrupt good manners. When you are, maybe when you are lonely, you start thinking about kidnapping or whatnot. But when you are busy, we are not, I'm not, in fact, to be honest with you, I'm against government building, expanding more prison for people instead of creating job opportunity. Job opportunity is very important. Some of these people that are doing all these things, some of them are graduates, but out of frustration, they will get inside, start doing some funny things. When you bring them close, you will realize that they are very, very intelligent, even more intelligent than you. But because of lack of, maybe you don't have anybody on top to help you, maybe no job and whatnot. When you stay alone, your mother will be crying, your parents will be crying. At a point, sometimes you become tempted. You're a human being. So I'm praying and I'm begging Nigerian government to stop building prison. Let them start creating job opportunity for the youths.
The previous time we shared that laptop, same machines, filing machines. I'll be setting up a full-funded medical outreach soon in Enugu State. Then the next one will be in Kogi, then River State. It's cut across 36 states in Nigeria. And this is solely standard and sponsored by Honorable Vincent Udobi and other good citizens of Nigeria and people in diaspora as well.
On his part, the president of the Radio, Television and Arts Workers Union of Nigeria, Comrade Emeka Kalu, stated the need for the union to partner with well-meaning Nigerians to create wealth for its members.
We want to identify with those who believe that they can create wealth. Those who are human capital developers. That way, we'll be able to assist our members through strategic partnerships like this.
The called on government to address the lingering issues hampering the developments of the country. Ikaite Ibot, KAFTAN TV.
Well, thank you so much. That happens to be what we got from the business news, and we'll be thinking of leaving. But before we take our leave of you on this station, I will need to let you know that the Brent crude oil goes for $71.83 now, an improvement of 1.37%. The Bonny Light, that is the light crude, still goes for $78.62, and a reduction of 2.30%. While the WTI crude oil, WTI is $66.10, an increment of 1.04%. Well, that's the much we can let you have as a result of the time we have. We can do the rest some other time. This is Okechukwu Onobogo. I wouldn't fail to say that, well, I didn't work alone. I worked with some people. There has been Sanusi, Adebayo, and there is Bright Chukwebue. We've also had Emmanuel Solomon, and we've also tried to make sure that we reach out to you the best way we could, in spite of everything. And we have also had a Borelu that also worked with us here briefly, talking about Obed. And then there has been the Victors, Victor Adeyeye, Victor Chizer. That's how it's been. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for being part of it. I still remain Okechukwu Onobogo. May the best happen to us all the time.